And so I just wanted to ask you one more thing, and that is, if you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, this is a good question. I think I should add this to my podcast.
You heard it here first.
I heard it. Yes. If I had to go back in time, what would I tell my younger self? Oh, there's so many things, but if I had to pick one, I would honestly say to really not listen to the noise around you. You know, I'm very much of I come from a family-oriented, very community-driven place where it is a very collaborative, very homey feel, and I'm always looking towards, you know, making sure everybody's comfortable, helping everybody, and that is one thing that I really pride myself on. But on the flip side, I am constantly worried about how everybody is perceiving the environment or me around them, and I would really like to tell my younger self, you know, it's really great to be empathetic and sympathetic, but when it starts to cause you mental distress, we need to really make sure that we're listening to the right kind of noise. And that is something that I personally have been working on in the last few years, and to really see where is this noise coming from and whether or not I can actually do anything about it. So if I had to tell younger self, really, you know, pick the noise that you want to listen to, but you don't need to listen to all of it.
Okay. So have a noise gate. Do the filter.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a much better way. Like what's it called? A bouncer? What is it? The people that check all the clubs or something?
Yeah, at the club. Yeah.
Yeah.
They check to make sure you meet all the criteria to enter the club.
Exactly.
So we need a mental bouncer.
We need a mental bouncer to help each other keep on track without mental distress.
I never saw that going in that direction. So as usual, Levi, you have surprised me yet again. Barb, I have a final question I want to ask you, because we could talk all day, and I know that you're very busy, but if you could travel back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
My younger self.
Yep, anytime.
I think one of the things I would tell myself is, you know, I studied French in high school for 4 years, and I studied in the American high school system, so which means I never learned how to speak any French. And I was the president of the French club, and I was like the star of French class, but that was because I could read, and I could read French pretty well. Anyway, I think I would tell myself, get multilingual as quickly as possible and maintain those languages, because I feel like that's, you know, I learned Portuguese when I lived in Brazil pretty fluently, but that was because I had French to build on. But my French has never evolved into the way that it was. But I think multilingualism is a really important component of a good quality life and a good quality. I mean, I know you know that from your own family experience too, Jason, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's important, and I think for young people to, because they are so connected, the world's so connected, and it's so easy for them to do different stuff with different people all over the world. And I think that multilingualism breeds the concept of multiculturalism too, and intercultural awareness, or whatever you want to call it, international mindedness. Like, pick a term, it's all kind of the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that would be my big thing. And I also think I would have told myself to try to focus more on conceptual learning than content learning, even though I didn't grow up in a concept-based school, you know, learning environment for the most part. I had one teacher that was pretty good at it, but I can see now how I got so obsessed with content, and then when I went off to college, I struggled a lot because I just, even though I was a great student in high school, I struggled a lot because I just couldn't put the big pictures together. And I think that is a key of just being a functional human being, is being able to sift and sort and categorize stuff that exists in the world, whether it's information or other physical stuff, sift and sort it, so that conceptually you can process it all and retrieve it when you need it and apply it when you need it. I think those are a couple of key things.
Great. Oh man, I was expecting you to say stuff like invest in Facebook or something like that, but that sounds good to me, man.
No.
That's awesome. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you could travel back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
There's probably two things, and they connect a bit. One is be patient, because sometimes, with youth, we aren't very patient. We want it now. We want it the way that we want it. And with age and experience, you sometimes see the bigger picture and why we can't always get what we want right away, or at all sometimes. And so I think connected with that is assuming positive intent. That's something that is huge, because oftentimes if someone says something or does something, we'll jump to a negative assumption. Oh, they did that because, they don't like me, or they're unhappy about this, and much of the time that's not true. Sometimes but much of the time they have a good reason why they're doing it. We just need to shut up and listen with an open mind, and just better understand the situation, and then it makes sense. And so I definitely wish I could go back, because I created many problems for myself that I probably could have not done if I would have those two thoughts.
Right. I think we all feel the same way, man. I have a little sidebar question for you, Dianne, and I really appreciate your time. But if you could travel back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, now then, what would I tell myself? I think I don't know. I think it's really all about just embracing the journey, isn't it? And I say this to teachers as well. When we're doing workshops, that we're all geared towards a summative assessment, but it's the learning process. It's that learning process, isn't it? So I think just enjoy the ride. Because my goodness, when I look back now, I've had a great ride. Every ride has peaks and troughs, doesn't it?
That's right.
In Spanish, we call it montaña rusa, where we're going up and down, up and down.
Nice.
But, that's life. But enjoy the journey, And certainly as an educator, my last 6 years have been amazing. I've been so blessed and so privileged to work with many educators around the world. So I feel very, very lucky. So I'm going to carry on enjoying the journey.
Fantastic. Well, I feel lucky to have had a chance to connect with you again, Dianne. Thank you so much. I want to ask you one question, and that is, if you could travel back in time, what is one thing you would say to yourself?
Okay, so that's a hard question. But I think if I could travel back in time and talk to myself as, a younger me, I would say that it's really worth the journey, and a lot of things will change, a lot of things will be challenging, but to keep on with it, because the impact you can have, especially in design, is so significant. It used to be that people would talk about design changing the world. I don't necessarily believe that design by itself changes the world, I think design helps realize a lot of very difficult ideas and makes them consumable, understandable for regular people. So I think design helps, but I don't think design by itself changes the world. But the world's worth changing, and design can help. So I guess, in short, I would say don't give up, keep going, it's worth it.
That's great advice, man. That's a great place for us to kind of wrap things up. And I have one last question for you, and that is, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
I would say, so I had a teacher ask us in 10th grade, who here is going to be a teacher? Who here plans to be a teacher growing up? And only 3 out of 15 raised their hand. I did not raise my hand. So I would say never to becoming a teacher.
Oh, that's so funny.
It is the best decision I have made in a while. I don't regret it at all. It's super fun.
Totally agree. I have one more question for you, and that is, if you could travel back in time, what would you say to your younger self?
That's a great question. And so the one thing, my response to that is invest in yourself sooner rather than later. And, okay, so my thing has always been, when I was in college and even throughout high school, procrastination has always been my biggest thing. And even my motto, and I laugh about it and I would share it with everybody. It's like, when I was in university, my motto was always procrastinate later. But you know what? I'll now much more mature, older, wife, family, and all of that. It's like, no, procrastination can definitely come back and kick you on the butt and add additional stress that you don't need. So for myself, it's like now I invest in myself earlier than later. And that goes for anything, that goes for my learning. One piece of advice that I learned and I still do is, whatever your salary is, set aside 10% for your personal learning, your own personal growth, because that'll help out and pay in dividends. But, just take that one step at a time. And even if it's just 1% a day, get 1% better a day, because that investment in the long term will just reap rewards in the end. So that's my best advice to you all.
That's great advice, man. Thank you. I could not think of a better way to kind of wrap this up. I want to ask you one question that have been asking everyone this season, and that is, if you could travel back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
That's a really good question. I would tell her, I would remind her that she's brave. I would remind her that she's brave. I don't look back in time and think I would do anything different. I'm not disappointed or with the steps that I've taken and the route that I've chosen, but I realize now I didn't know how brave I was until very recently. And if I knew that earlier, I would have probably saved myself a lot of unnecessary stress, right? Because I was stuck in the calculation cycle. I don't think I would have gotten to where I am faster. That's not what I'm saying. But look at how brave you have to be to do the things that, some of the things that I've accomplished, or many of us accomplished. That takes a great deal of bravery. If I had just known in the moment that I was being brave, I would have given myself more grace.
Yes.
But we are incredibly, I don't mean as international teachers. I don't mean that. I mean, every human is incredibly brave. And if you understand that earlier, your life, you will find a deep strength faster. And I just wish she knew that in those moments.
Wow. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Unrehearsed. It's awesome. Be brave. I love it.
We don't use that. We don't use bravery anymore. It's been associated with killing animals and living in the wild and going off the grid and putting your money in the stock market. That's not brave. Braveness is having a hard conversation with a coworker.
Absolutely.
Or your kid. That's bravery. And if we recognize the ways we're brave every day, maybe that's part of the work. We might start to break down those barriers a lot faster and recognize that we're doing the right thing in the moment.
And I have one last question for you, James. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
How far back do I get to go? Till I was like 18?
You get to pick. You get to pick, man.
Okay. Fine. Buy Google, buy Apple, and do it right now.
I love it. That's amazing. The whole Forrest Gump
got to
approach,
game the system every which way.
In the fruit company. Wow, that's amazing.
Oh no,
James,
Apple was
awesome.
around when I was younger. Google would be the one to watch out for, but I was like 18, 19. If I forgot a few words, I'd say, ignore Alta Vista. There's going to be something coming along called Google. Invest every last penny you've got into it.
And everything you've got in that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I have one question for you, Jeff, and then we'll talk a little bit about how people can get in touch with you. But if you were to travel back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, gosh, Jason. deep question. What I have found to be really interesting is that I am right now in working on this project in partnership with a lot of educators in a lot of settings. I am drawing on things that I have learned at every point of my educational professional journey. And there were times when I was doing something and I was like, I'm not really sure how this is gonna I'm interested in this. I'm passionate about this. Where this is going, I'm not 100% sure. And I think I worried. Maybe worried is a strong word. Maybe it's not. I think I worried like, oh, is this the right next step, or is this like the thing, or like, what's the long-term goal? Where is this all headed? And like, I kind of never really knew, but I always felt like each next decision, I carried the weight of like, I have to figure out like the next thing. And I think if I had just approached it from no, like as long as you continue to learn, grow, work with others, have an impact, it's all gonna like take you in the right direction, and things all sort of build, because I'm feeling that now. But I like, always like I'm trying to be like, well, backwards plan. What's the goal? How do I get there? And like, no, really, it's like enjoy the journey. So that would be the thing I would tell myself.
Nice. Enjoy the journey. That's awesome. I have an awesome question for you, and I hope that you're ready, because I'm asking everyone this season the same question, and I want to hear what you had to say, because you always have such a unique take on life. But if you could travel back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh my goodness. Does it matter how young I'm imagining?
And it doesn't matter what you talk about, but I'm just curious.
I might tell her not to get a master's degree in Irish literature.
You might?
I do have one, and it's specifically like Irish like drama. So it's like Irish like plays from the early 1900s.
Wow.
It's very
that's
specific.
extremely...
And that was a pivot from medieval literature.
It was your fallback.
That would have been wild.
Wow.
It was.
Holy moly.
That's one.
That's good advice.
I don't think it's really doing much for my career in community management in the
how's your
educational technology.
It's
actually not bad.
Oh, Sarah, that's too funny. That's awesome.
So that's I bet you'll never have another answer.
Well,
like
Sarah,
that.
most of the stuff we talk about never comes up on any other episode that I have. So I'll tell you that much. It's too much fun. That's great advice. That segues perfectly into the question I've been asking everyone all season. And that is, if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Okay. Be a quitter.
Okay.
Just quit.
Just quit. What are we going to quit, Jill?
Yep. So, and when I say that, if I had quit the constant overthinking, if I had quit the comparing myself with other people, if I had quit being a perfectionist, and if I had just lived, my life just free without those burdens, life would have been so much better, you know? But I'm not going to go back, and go, I should have, could have, would have, but if I could have told myself back then, just be a quitter, quit that, stop that, move forward. Nobody is expecting you to hold yourself at that expectation that you're expecting to hold yourself to. So, be a quitter.
Wow, be a quitter. I've heard a lot of things this season. That's not one I've heard. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. AJ, this is awesome, man. And I know you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate the time that you've given me. I have one last question for you, and I've asked everyone this season the same question, and I can't wait to hear your answer. And that is, if you could travel back in time and tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
Yeah. Probably be more aggressive, push harder for the things I believe in. As I replay the video on my journey, even though I always had good reasons for going slow and playing it safe, from this vantage point, it's hard to think of any area where the benefits I thought I would get from that were worth the cost. And so if I was going to advise myself, I'd probably, folks who've had to endure me, probably thinking that sounds horrible. Like, wait a minute, you'll be even more reckless than you were before. But honestly, yeah, that I probably, that while I certainly want to and be inclusive and collaborative, that I think even inside of that approach, that there are ways I could have been more aggressive, I could have been more fearless, instead of being kind of captivated by my fears or anxieties or worries, that I could have been more bold in my own voice and my own practice. So yeah, I think that's the advice I'd give, is be even more aggressive on behalf of the students you serve.
Wow, I love it, man. That's so deep. I've just found the topic for your next book, AJ, right there. Be fearless. I love it, and push harder.
Indeed.
All right. I have one last question for you, and I hope you're ready. I'm going to shoot you a really good one here. I've been asking everyone all season. If you could travel back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Oh my gosh. Man, I'm trying to think when I would go back. I mean, there'd probably be multiple times. I would. Okay, I'm gonna be like three. I'm gonna do 3 instances of.
Okay.
And they will all be different.
Okay.
One thing I would do is go back and tell myself, invest in in a ed tech company.
There you go.
That would be number one. That was number one.
Okay.
But number 2 is I regret. It's a regret that I had when I was in high school. I tried out for the baseball team. I played baseball when I was in Little League, and then I kind of stopped in it. In high school, I tried back up again, and my arm wasn't as strong just because I hadn't played for years. And I made the team, but I never got to play. I was kind of like sitting on the bench, and I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I quit. I said, I'm done. And so I regret I regret doing that.
Okay.
I was like, I should, even if not that I was ever going to make it to the major leagues or something like that, but I was like, yeah, man, I should have stuck that out. And so I think for me, that helped me ever since. Like, I'm not going to quit. I don't quit. So I may take a break from it, but I won't quit. I'll try it, and then I'll say, okay, hey, I did my best. I didn't quit, and I did it. So, and then the other thing I would probably do, and I don't know when I would go back and tell myself this, and this could be like 10 years ago. I'm 50, and this is 40. At 40, I would tell myself, and because it's younger than where I'm at right now. But I would have said, don't I would have done what I'm thought, don't put off what you think you want to do. Don't watch what others are doing. And I think I would have started a lot sooner of the journey that I had with whether with YouTube and doing things where I'm at. It's like, man, because I tell myself, if only I'd started sooner. I'm definitely a believer that things happen when they're supposed to be, but I would have told myself,
make it happen sooner.
Make it happen sooner. Take that leap. I said, go and take that leap, because obviously when you're younger, you have more opportunities to make those mistakes, so you have more time to catch up. But as you get older, you really have to be more strategic with those leaps. So I have to go back in time and say, man, try it, take that leap, do it. Try out for the football team. Try out for the learn that instrument that you always wanted to learn. Learn how to take a photography class. That you've always wanted to be a photographer, or be a cook. Take that cooking class. Anything that for me, that I'm saying that to myself, but if you're listening to this too, it's like don't wait till tomorrow. What you can do today. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. There's actually all one. There's actually all one thing, right? Like, I mean, really, it's all things that you wish you had done and that kind of thing. And so that's great advice. Thank you, Claudio. I really appreciate that. And so, Jarrett Brown, if you could travel back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Well, I think there are probably a couple things. I think try not to be too nervous about things, I think things will work out. And so it's taken me a long time to really get to that. And I don't know if I'm completely zen yet with it. But I do think that's important, that, things will eventually work out. And I do think also, too, you've got to have a lot of care, empathy for others, the people around you, because we have no idea the stories that people have been through or that sort of thing, So I think we have to come with best intentions, with everything that we do. So I think those are two things that I would tell my younger self.
Those are both wonderful things, and I completely agree with them, and I appreciate you sharing them. And everyone has a similar sort of feel of, take it easy, don't get too stressed, be patient with yourself. So I think that's great that you also feel the same way. So hopefully younger people listening will heed our advice and take our warning give yourself a little bit of a slack, I guess you could say.
Has anyone ever asked you that question? Have you answered
good job, Jarrett. I've had that asked of me, and my answer is very similar to yours, which is number one, I wouldn't change anything that I've done, and number two, to be really kind to myself, right? To really think about what just that I have certain strengths that I need to play to, and that the things that aren't my strengths I can develop, but that I need to not be so hard on myself, because I think we're all our own worst and hardest critic. And I think that we have to be, gracious with ourselves and cut ourselves some slack. So yeah, same kind of vein.